Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland, and I'm continuing and hopefully concluding my series about the Irish oppression myth. So I'm not going to go over the Ulster Troubles again. I've done many videos on those, but just call to mind that when IRA men were setting off bombs in Great Britain, INLA men too, obviously in Northern Ireland too, there was very little anti-Irish sentiment, considering yes, people fulminated about us sometimes, but I don't know of anybody who was even assaulted. Maybe it happened occasionally, very rarely anti-Irish graffiti, but I don't know of a single Irish person who was killed in Great Britain because of this. Now, nobody should be killed for a crime that he or she did not commit, but in these situations this almost inevitably happens. When people from one ethnic group are committing acts of terrorism, that ethnic group as a whole often comes under attack by bigots. It's unfair, but it happens. But it shows the decency and fair-mindedness of people. In Great Britain, they didn't do this. And actually, it's more specifically England. The INLA and IRA only bombed civilian targets in England, not Wales, not Scotland. So that was that. It shows that really there isn't much anti-Irish sentiment, even when there's very severe provocation. And English people could still go to Ireland, including the Republic of Ireland. I know a couple of English people who had their cars graffitiized with things like British pig, but Anglophobia, it was not severe, it was not violent in the south of Ireland. Anyway, so other aspects of Irish culture, as I was saying, besides Gaelic culture, shouldn't be denigrated or omitted. We should embrace different memes that have been contributed to Ireland from other places, but principally from Great Britain, because practically all of us have ancestry from there. So if we're only Gaelic on our outlook, that's singular. Dublin celebrates its Danish heritage, but it should also celebrate its Welsh, Scots and English heritage too. The Danes invaded us and enslaved us and so on, but we're willing to forgive that, but somehow people are bearing grudges about what certain English people did centuries ago. Jeremiah O'Donovan Rosser called us Gaels. We should call ourselves Irish and embrace that too. And Patrick Pearse in Christmas 1915, at Christmas 1915, wrote a poem and he said, you know, Lord, in the coming battle, help the Gael. May not be his precise words, but he did use the word Gael to be synonymous with Irish, so on. Or I think Brendan Behan used to do likewise. And we are partly Gaels, maybe even mostly Gaels, but we're not entirely Gaels. And as for the Irish language, well, languages come and languages go. Language's death is a phenomenon that's always been there, and countless languages have gone extinct over history, cannot always be prevented. And obviously Irish replaced other languages which come in Ireland as well. The P Celtic languages were a Q Celtic language. What else I'd like to point out about this? Were it not for a guy from Great Britain, St. Patrick, I suppose we wouldn't have the Latin alphabet. Well, we might have got it eventually anyway. Our language wasn't written until that happened. And the English, Welsh, Norman immigrants to Ireland in the Middle Ages, they started speaking Irish so much, adopting Gaelic, because I think Gaelic and Irish at that time were almost synonymous. Culture, raiment, sports and so forth. Then came the Statutes of Kilkenny in the Middle Ages, which said there's the Englishry and the Irishry. The Englishry is really the eastern part of the country. The Irish is everything else, and a lot of our Gaelic culture was not to be celebrated and practiced in the eastern region, the Pale, that the Crown directly controlled, which was a bad and discriminatory piece of legislation. It was the Middle Ages, one can't hope for much justice back then. But anyway, pretty soon that was in abeyance, and Irish was spoken in lots of places, and English was spoken a little bit elsewhere. So it shows that the English, Welsh, Norman immigrants to Ireland were certainly not anti-Irish, and there was so much intermarriage. Even if you look at Irish people who moved to Great Britain in the 19th century, about half of them married out of the community. Now those who married within the Irish community were not necessarily anti-English or anti-Welsh or anti-Scots, and they weren't all anti-us. So it showed that how much fraternity or fraternizing there was between the different ethnic communities, and it's questionable to how much we're a different ethnic community at all. I know we are somewhat ethnically different if you just look at blood groups and things like that, not so much by phenotype. So to be Irish would be to have the blood of Danes, Vikings, Gauls, Milesians, Spanish, Anglo-Normans, Welsh, Scots, Huguenots, French, nowadays Germans, Polish people, Dutch people, Chinese, Nigerians, Romanians, and so forth. So we want to recognise that and celebrate that. But coming back to the language, people always say, oh, our connection with Great Britain repressed the language. In the late 18th century, the Viceroy was patron of the Irish Society, as in this organisation was aiming to promote the Irish language. Or indeed, the Lord Mayor of Belfast, he has Éireann Go Bragh, as in Ireland Forever, on his chain of office. And these were unionist mayors were wearing that for a century. Hardly a case of trying to strangle our language. There are other examples. Irish regiments of the British Army often had words in Irish like Fága Balla, clear the way, things like that. So many Irish-speaking sailors were on Lord Nelson's flagship, HMS Victory, had to have an interpreter in order to communicate with them. There are many more examples of this sort of thing, or people say that Unionists were so anti-Catholic. It's been pointed out that the Belfast City Hall lowered the flag for the death of, I think it was John the 23rd, the Pope, in 1963. So these arguments about anti-Catholicism are overstated. And there were obviously Catholic chaplains in the Royal Navy, the British Army, the RUC, right from the beginning. Sometimes it was Catholic clergy or the Catholic community in general was prejudiced against the Crown Forces, more so than the other way around. Anyway, so some Welsh and English people came to loot and have done wrong, no doubt about that, but many have done good. So we should celebrate our heritage from Great Britain, just as Great Britain celebrates its Irish heritage. Difficult to find a high street in Great Britain without an Irish pub on it. And I use the word Great Britain advisedly, not just Britain, because I suppose there's Brittany as well, and as opposed to the British Isles, and we're part of that. If you look back, the origin of the word Ireland, Éire, is possibly from Iher, as in west in Irish, to the west of Great Britain. It might be from Eriu, a goddess in the ancient Gaelic pantheon. What else? I think it was Strabo in his geography many centuries ago, this Greek scholar wrote about Britannicae, the Tin Islands, meaning Ireland and Great Britain. So the people of this island to the east, they are our kith and kin. Just think Argyll, the nearest point in Great Britain to Ireland, means East Gale. So there were Irish kingdoms which spanned the North Channel, certainly. The Scots were a tribe from Ulster, and they attacked Scotland, conquered that bit of Caledonia, and so on. So that's a notable thing about Irish Republicans who often fly the Scots saltire. So they will display the cross of St Andrew, have some fellow feeling with Scotland, but why not with England then? Why not with Wales then? Why an attempt to exclude them? The fascinating thing is how absolutely nobody believes in Irish independence, even the dissident Republicans, the most ultra-nationalist people of all. They want a confederation of the Celtic nations of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Cornwall and Brittany. So we Irishmen are all Britishers. I realise most people in the Republic of Ireland are not British citizens. Up to 20% of people are British citizens. Not say they're from Great Britain or from the Republic of Ireland. We were able to claim British citizenship in the south of Ireland right up until 1981, well after the Republic was proclaimed and recognised. There was absolutely no contradiction whatsoever in being Irish and being British. I say this conscious that my grandfather as an adolescent had been in the IRA in Cork in a very minor way. I doubt he ever touched a gun, but some IRA men were hiding in the house at night. So I'm aware of the complexity of things, and I've acknowledged wrongdoing by the Crown Forces. I'm thinking, why did my grandfather do this? People do things or form political opinions for non-political reasons somehow. It's following the crowd, it's the easy thing to do. You'll be adulated by your peers. You feel courageous, it's emotionally satisfying. The devil has all the best tunes, and had someone at that time been born in a Protestant Ulster family, he might well have been a loyalist and in the Ulster Protestant Association and so on. Bad things to do in some ways, but understandable, forgivable. A lot of people do foolish things with their adolescence. I did too. Had I been in that situation, it would be difficult not to do that. People are shaped by their environment. That's undeniable. Everyone has eyes and ears, and unsurprisingly, they're inspired by what they hear. If everybody else around you was saying such and such a viewpoint is the right thing to do, and our side is morally righteous and the others are terrible, then people will believe that. It's called confirmation bias, a my side bias, seeking information to reinforce one's opinion, seeking to overlook or de-emphasize or deny information which tends to undermine that viewpoint. So as you can see, I'm fair and balanced, and I've sought out information which would tend to contradict what I'm saying, and I've acknowledged points which run against the gravamen of my case. So the British Isles forever, long live British Ireland, God save the Queen, may she be recognised as the Queen of Ireland as well. So I'd like to see a peaceful and a democratic reunification. I would personally favour a unitary state, and I realise it's highly unlikely to come about, but anything close to that would still be progress. At the very least, rejoining the Commonwealth as a republic, and that would be reassuring to Unionists, things like that, a gesture of reconciliation. Even Fianna Fáil have been proposing this for almost 20 years. If we did rejoin the UK in some form, we could still keep the tricolour. That's more important to our identity, I think, than having a president of the word republic. We could put the Union flag on the middle of it to occupy the bit of the white bar in the centre, to occupy roughly 20% of the flag's area, because roughly 20% of the population of Ireland is Unionist. When I say Ireland, I really mean Ireland, 32 counties, not just the Republic. So that's it. What are your thoughts?